And now we can move to delegations. Correct?
Correct.
Mr. Director of the first one, you go ahead. You can call them out.
I believe it's from Mr. Luis Mexicano, representative of the Canadian Alliance of Black Educators regarding anti-Black and anti-Indigenous racism in schools.
Okay. Can I just before you start, Luis, and we're not starting your time yet, I'd like to tell all the presenters that are making a presentation, could you please, you've got 3 minutes, so try not to go over because I'm going to try and tell you when you're close, and I don't want you to get upset, but that's what's going to happen. And second of all, could you also make sure that your presentation does not state names of staff or trustees, please? I ask you to please be careful of that. So I thank you, and go ahead, Luis, you're the first one. Go ahead.
I speak to you today as the son of a Catholic mother raised under the principles of liberation theology, a theology that led to the murder of Bishop Juan Gerardi in my home country of Guatemala, a theology that led to my mother and I fleeing our country as refugees, a theology that your school board desperately needs to revisit and implement for the well-being of the most marginalized, disrespected, and discriminated of your student demographics. Presently, I serve as a director on the board of the Canadian Alliance of Black Educators. I hold the privilege and honor in the highest regard, and thus I am here to channel our collective outrage at the treatment that Black students, Black staff, and Black community members have received from the Toronto Catholic District School Board. Folks, I watched all 8 minutes and 46 seconds of George Floyd's murder. I observed and analyzed the apathy and disdain in the eyes of former officer Derek Chauvin as he killed Mr. Floyd. I have seen that same look of disdain in the eyes of your staff when attempting to discuss racism. 3 years ago, I attempted to get justice for a Latin American family who was subjected to the impunity of one of your staff using an anti-Black racist slur freely in conversation twice, the second in the presence of their superior. I presented a delegation to this very board at the time and posed 3 simple questions that remain unanswered. In a recent public email, one of your staff ended the conversation wishing me a safe summer while ignoring the questions I posed to your institution repeatedly. They are, is there any context that makes it acceptable for your staff to be allowed to utter anti-Black racist slurs? Should your staff be able to repeat these slurs in the presence of their superior and families who are clearly protesting the use of such language? What has happened to this institution and the governance of it that has allowed for staff to feel bold enough to utter slurs and tell protesting families nonsensical justifications? I believe the public deserves a written response from the board. It is my understanding that your current administration has not implemented a single staff workshop on anti-Black racism, and if so, that is absolutely embarrassing. I encourage this board to work with your own African Canadian Advisory Committee and the Canadian Alliance of Black Educators to secure the services of the City of Toronto's Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit on this file. I recommend your board and staff be trained to recognize and counter anti-Black racism, that your executive craft policy and professional standards that name anti-Black racism and counter it effectively. I also urge you to action and properly resource the approved motion on anti-Black and anti-Indigenous racism expeditiously. In closing, I leave you with the words of the late great rapper Nipsey Hussle. They all in collusion. These racist institutions, double standards, acting like they're not the reason why we're ruthless. The world would not know Jesus Christ if there was never Judas. Folks, any staff member who is not actively working to dismantle white supremacy and confront racism in your board is a Judas who must be removed from the table and dealt with accordingly. The legacy of Jesus Christ hangs in the balance. Black Lives Matter.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can I get somebody to move? Trustee Pasquale, move receipt, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll move
Follow
receipt.
the staff.
Yeah, correct.
Thank you.
Second.
Do I have a seconder?
Seconded, Chair.
Quintana wants seconded. Good. I don't see any questions. Thank you very much, sir. All in favor? Motion of receipt. Yeah. Trustee Martino in favor. Trustee Kennedy?
In favor.
Crawford?
In favor.
Nico?
In favor.
Trustee Domenico?
In favor.
Trustee DeGiorgio?
In favor.
Trustee Pasquale?
In favor.
Trustee Delgrand?
In favor.
Freddie?
In favor.
Trustee Lubinsky? Trustee Lubinsky? And Trustee Lubinsky. Okay, she's not there. Trustee Rizzo?
In favor.
Thank you. Trustee Tanawat?
In favor.
And student trustees?
Student trustees are in favor.
Thank you very much. And so that carries.